I don't know if you're on, but oh, well, we'll talk about it later
Okay.
because the recording's going. Good morning, everybody. It's 8 a.m. on Wednesday, September 10th. This is the General Government Committee meeting for the City of Tumwater, and we are convening. As always, we'll begin with roll call. I'm joined by Councilmember Kathy, and I'm Councilmember Michael Althauser, and Councilmember Dahlhoff is excused this morning. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes from our July 9th meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
I will second it. Motion by Councilmember Kathy, seconded by myself. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion passes unanimously. That brings us to the one item on our substantive agenda, but it's a big item. Which is the 2025 comp plan periodic update with the plan introduction. Brad, I think you're going to help us with this teeny little item that we'll be discussing today.
Well, this is actually the shortest of all the documents we've presented so far, so you're correct about it being the smallest. But let me go ahead and share screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So the purpose of today is to introduce the last part of the comprehensive plan draft to you, which is the plan introduction, and also to talk about the adoption schedule for the ordinances that are going to go forward this fall. Feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions, and I'll try not to cough too much. Again, just reviewing the plan introduction, discussing the ordinance adoption schedule. The plan introduction intent is to gather together all those things that are applicable across all the elements of the plan. First of all, there's some housekeeping things that are involved with the comprehensive plan in terms of how much, when you update it and how do you amend it and what the community involvement should be and that kind of thing. So that's the first chapter. Second chapter deals with some overall plan goals, which after a lot of discussion, we decided it made a lot more sense to pull those out of individual elements and have them in its own. And then we also have the countywide planning policies as an appendix, and then finally the actual ordinance that's going to be, you'll see later this year, that will be part of another appendix. Again, the foundation of the plan lays out the purpose of the comprehensive plan. It lays out how it's based on the city's vision, mission, and values. I'd like to note that I know the council had some discussions last night about the wording for the vision and the mission and so forth. We will update the comprehensive plan to reflect whatever the council ultimately arrives at, but I think we're using the version that's probably from this summer that you've been talking about there. As I mentioned, it also outlines the plan amendment process, which is the annual amendment process that we go through. There's also what is known as an emergency amendment process. And then we also discuss the general update process, which is obviously what we're in right now. We also discuss in there the plan review program. We have some state requirements for housing and climate of reporting back to the state, but we also want to make sure that the council and the commission are informed of how we're meeting the goals and so forth that we've established in the plan. As I mentioned, there is a public participation component. It outlines the overall goals of public participation and some of the general ways that we would seek it during this entire process, as well as what we have for coordination between ourselves and other agencies and other governmental bodies. So the second chapter outlines these general goals, and I'll just run through them. So interrupt me if you have any questions or if you prefer different language or anything like that. But up front, we wanted to make sure that engagement was probably the number one goal, which is, again, continuously engage the community in the region. Sort of very broad because it covers a lot of different aspects of what we try to do in the comprehensive plan. The second is obviously the coordination. Making sure that what we do in one part of the plan is workable with everything else. So a lot of these things will sound very familiar, but I think it's probably important that we sort of state them in one place. Community vibrancy is a new one, but I think it's actually gets at what do we mean when we're trying to create community. And obviously the comprehensive plan is one way we try to do that through the physical um, construction of buildings and so forth. But it's also, the comprehensive plan also tries to, I guess, take those bits of Tumwater's history that we want to preserve and works them in with the changing nature of the community. So um, what we have here is some language about fostering livability by evoking a sense of identity through arts, culture, and history, attracting and sustaining desired economic activity that supports the community by making investments and emphasize Tumwater as a welcoming place and enhance community building. We have other goals later on that deal with equity and so forth, but this is sort of trying to capture what we think, the community thinks about when we say that, this is our vision of what Tumwater is, this is what makes Tumwater different and attracts people and keeps people in the city.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
The next goal deals with equity, and this one is obviously very important to the council and the community. Uh, Ensure that all members of the community, especially those whose needs have been systematically neglected, are well served by making decisions and investments through an inclusive process which results in equitable outcomes. So what this does is, first of all, sets us up for obviously supporting the goals and the policies and the rest of the plan, but more importantly, sets us up for the process we use to go forward to selecting and supporting particular projects that advance the vision of the comprehensive plan. So that whole making decisions and investments through an inclusive process is sort of an essential part of that. So it's not just a one-off kind of thing. Climate resilience, we wanted to make sure that we really emphasize the fact that, in addition to obviously the state requirements, the city has been very strongly in support of trying to address climate within its means. So this is increasing climate resiliency by promoting sustainability, reducing pollution, promoting healthy habits, and supporting clean air and water. Some of these things are under our direct control. Some of them are things that we have to work with others on, clean air, for example. But we thought it was important that we have this as an overall plan goal as well. When we had discussions initially about the whole comprehensive plan, our preference was to try to include things like the climate element throughout the plan, rather than its own separate plan. And the reason for that was we recognize there are things in the climate element and how important that is. It really is, it touches on everything. But the way that the state requirements are, we have to have a separate climate element plan. And this is sort of trying to pull that out as to just make everybody aware that, hey, it's not just one element that we're dealing with it. This is across the board.
When you first put that up, I thought healthy habits. I said,
Habitats,
What?
sorry.
we're really doing
No,
here.
we'd also do healthy habits as well. So we talk about teeth brushing and other things, but and then a couple more. Fiscal stewardship. I think this one is also really important because obviously the comprehensive plan provides the foundation for a lot of ongoing city expenses, whether we're talking infrastructure, other capital facilities, or if we're talking funding programs or staff to do those programs. I think it's just obvious that we don't have all the resources we would like to do everything we'd like. And so we have to be really cautious about making wise investments in our funds for infrastructure and projects. And then lastly, the goal 7 is to environmental protection and enhancement. We wanted to call this out as well because, well, we deal with this very explicitly in the conservation element and also in the climate element. This is also a very important goal, I think, number one for the council, but it's also something we've heard a lot from the community. So those are the overall plan goals. The next thing I'd like to talk a little bit about is moving away from the plan and direction and talking about the update schedule that you'll be seeing in the next few months. There are going to be 3 different ordinances that the council will be seeing this fall and into the winter. The first one will be our 25 comprehensive plan amendment ordinance, which deals only with the capital facilities plan. As you remember, the capital facilities plan is updated every 2 years, opposite of the budget. And this particular amendment is to deal with just the adoption of that capital facilities plan. The reason why we separated this from the other ordinance dealing with the comprehensive plan update is we want to ensure that the capital facilities plan moves forward and is in place by the end of this year to ensure that we have our ducks in a row for funding and funding assurances and so forth, particular projects. We have vetted the projects that are within the capital facilities plan against those projects that we have identified in the other comprehensive plan amendments, elements like the transportation plan and so forth. But that's why we're going to have a separate process for that. We will also have a separate ordinance dealing with the overall comprehensive plan update. So all of the elements that you've seen to date and have been discussing in separate meetings will be brought together under one ordinance, and the council will consider everything together. Obviously, that's a lot of pages, even with our attempt to try to shorten things and so forth. But we will focus, I think, our discussion a little bit later about particularly what what you think the council really needs to focus on and how we can best present that information. The third ordinance is an ordinance that will deal with the development code update, which is all those things this year that we need to do to meet state deadlines as part of the comprehensive plan update. So this is where the middle housing updates will be a part of, as well as some other code amendments that we've identified through our discussions up to date. So the first schedule, I'm just going to run through fairly quickly on this, is again the capital facilities amendment. We're looking to start SEPA review at the middle of this month. Also start the notice of intent process with Commerce at the same time. Later this month, we'll be meeting with the Planning Commission for a briefing on the capital facilities, and then followed in October with a work session and a hearing. So that means that council will start to see this. And first of all, we're going to take it to Public Works next week. But for your purposes, you'll see it with the General Government Committee on the 12th, and then the work session, and then consideration on the 2nd. We're hoping to have, we have the documents have been are in the packet for the Public Works Committee. If you think you would like to see anything ahead of time, please just let me know. Or you can just follow what the discussions are going on with the Planning Commission and what we're presenting there. Any questions about the capital facilities part of that?
So this, for consideration, we're looking at December 2. This is just for the CFP. This isn't for the other two pieces.
That's correct.
Okay. Got it.
So moving on to the comprehensive plan update and the development code update ordinance, there's two questions we would like you to discuss with you. We've asked this question of the Planning Commission last night. The first one is, given the size and complexity of the overall update ordinances, what are the most important things that you would like to have staff focus on to help your discussions? We've had multiple meetings over the course of the past couple years on these particular topics, but from your perspective, what do you think we should be really focusing on? And if you're not able to answer that this morning, we are obviously open to getting your input at any time, but it would really help us to focus our presentations and focus what we're presenting on the things that you would really like to know about before you consider the ordinances.
Do you mean in the form of the work sessions or future meetings of GGC?
Actually, it's in either, and it also means things that we present either in our staff reports, our presentations, or the particular discussions that we could lead at the work session or GDC.
Yeah. I think for the council, I think I have different answers for different forums. I think for the council as a whole, I think part of the introduction to the plan, like Joan and I and Lietta are obviously going to have a higher degree of familiarity than the other members, with the exception of the times where we have talked about these components at work sessions so far. but I think it is helpful to have some kind of brief opening sort of summary for how this is sort of changing and how it's different from the past. For some of these things, that might mean, like very significant changes or entirely new components or new goals. For some of them, it might be sort of not necessarily status quo, but we're adding things to pretty much every element within the comp plan. But being able to sort of demonstrate how we are changing things and how the comp plan is being modified, I think would help focus attention on those specific items. Since we sort of have councilmatically, even though it was a prior council who approved the plan, we have, adopted what currently exists. So I think focusing on the delta between the two will help focus attention for the council as a whole. I think for like GGC, we've been briefed on a lot of the elements and given some pieces of feedback. And then I'm sure that staff have also workshopped these things and refined them further, and being able to sort of define what's different between the first time we talked about something versus where we are now, I think is also helpful, because we are going through so much material that sort of focusing on that, I think is also helpful.
Okay, I think that's helpful.
Joan?
Michael, did you mean when for the council that we wouldn't necessarily for them be pointing out new things? Wouldn't we just be talking about, I can't imagine, I'm just thinking of remembering what was before. What?
Yeah, I mean, like, let's say, we're adding climate resiliency components to a lot of different elements, right?
Yeah, that's,
yeah. Yeah. So if we're briefing on if there's a briefing of the council as a whole on an element that didn't used to talk about climate, but now it does, like that feels worth highlighting to me so that they can be aware of the things that are changing from the prior plan to the plan that there is now, because they're not gonna. It would be more challenging for them to have both whole documents and to then try to compare them on the fly rather than highlighting those things specifically.
Yeah. So it's kind of like where we are and why we got there.
Yeah, how we're evolving, how things are being updated and modified. Like at its heart, this is an update to the plan. So focusing on the changes and the improvements that are being made, I think helps focus attention.
I do too. Yeah.
And then we had a second question about, we have a couple of joint work sessions scheduled between the council and the commission. And what we wanted to do is, we've talked to the planning commission about how they would like to approach these and what they would like to talk about with the council as a whole. But we'd like to get your input on what you would like to hear from the planning commission, and how you think how the staff could help facilitate those discussions.
That's a good question.
Yeah. First, I want to thank them for their hard work. Yeah.
They have done a lot of work. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem is they keep saying they want more and more of this. And to be honest, we're running out of paper and other things to give them. So I don't want to say that you need to pay attention to their work program next year, but you might want it.
I think it would be worth, and maybe this is sort of an introductory thing, but I think it would be worth maybe exploring with them if there are particular areas where they find a lot of I don't want to say like areas of the plan that they're proud of or like the most, but if there are things that, like to your point yesterday, Joan, about knowing what motivates people, I think it could be an interesting exercise to sort of talk about what portions of the updated plan that they're particularly excited about, because they do have had so much input in the process so far. Like, I think that could be good for us building relations with them, maybe as like, I don't know if that's an icebreaker type exercise, but kind of talking about like the hopes and visions for like what you want the plan to be able to achieve. I think might be a good introductory conversation for us.
I like that, yeah. What,
And in terms of more like substantive matters for the council and the planning commission, certainly if the council has questions about the plan, like why did you all recommend for this portion to look this way, or what are we trying to achieve with this? Like, I'm not sure that there will be a lot of questions like that, but if there's space for that, that would probably be a good thing. Um, if there's areas where we want to deviate from what they've provided in terms of their recommendations and input, that's definitely something that we should highlight, but that might come later, I think. Brad, that would probably come later in the process.
Yeah, so skipping ahead to the next slide, what we've set it up to have is two separate joint work sessions. One would be before the planning commission has the public hearing. So the council basically has an opportunity to talk with the commission and discuss what is going to be going forward to the hearing. And then the second one would be to discuss basically after the hearing, what the final recommendation of the commission would be. A question had been, obviously, if, for the council's consideration, whether or not they thought those two separate work sessions were a good idea, or if we should go to one, or what. That's also another question, but that was our intent.
Okay. That sounds good.
I think Michael's first suggestion gets to where some of the changes are that they, kind of the why they wanted to put that in, or how they feel about the emphasis changing a bit more toward putting climate, throughout, just how they feel about their own work, and that can just come up in conversation. But I mean, it seems to me that this group, they really kind of get into this. I mean, I can see some personal, stuff in what they've given us this past year. You know, they're not just checking the boxes of let's look this over kind of thing, but
Yeah, that has definitely been the case.
yeah, no. So they might want to brag about.
So the schedule, and this is taking both the comprehensive plan and the development code updates together. We'll start SEPA review the middle of next month, as well as the notice of intent process. This is going to be the planning commission proposed schedule for their review and hearing. So we would have, again, this would be two separate ordinances, but we would be dealing with them on the same nights. Last meeting in October, we would be briefing them. We would have a separate planning commission only work session on the 10th, which is a Monday. That date of the 24th, it should be the 25th. I misadded. But this would be the joint city council planning commission work session before it goes to hearing, to sort of have any discussions or any big issues talked about before that. Their first meeting in December would be the hearings on those particular ordinances. And then council would pick it up in January with a joint work session to talk about the overall recommendation. And then a work sessions, basically, again, both of these ordinances would come forward. And then mid-February would be consideration. We're leaving an extra space there in January because it's in my mind too quick to try to address any questions or considerations that come out of that work session in January at the first meeting in February. So
You'll be gone, Michael.
well, no, actually, if you recall, he signed a contract that promised that he would not step down and give up his responsibilities until this work is completed.
I see. I like that.
I might stop by on February 17th just to watch the vote to make sure it actually passes. Just have too much skin in the game to really just ignore it completely. At that point, I can also pester you with emails as a private citizen who's interested in adoption of the comp plan and development code update.
So I also wanted to mention that there will be two separate ordinances for the development code update. The first one will deal with those particular things that have to be adopted by the end of 25. Obviously, we're going to be a couple months late, but the intent is to get there as close as possible. The second ordinance that you'll see in the first half of 26 will deal with everything else that wasn't specifically called out as state law as having to be adopted or completed by December 31st. So there'll be two goes at the development code, but that's the reason for the separate ordinances. So again, any questions or comments, you can reach out to us. Any questions or anything else that what we've talked about today?
I don't have any.
No, it is exciting to sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel for the plan and for the process. I won't be here to vote on it, but I probably will attend that meeting just to sort of see it through kind of to the end, even if from the chairs in the back. But that just means I'll get to make jokes and comments with the staff at that point in time when you all are up on the dais.
Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, I'll look forward to that. That'll be a good meeting. Yeah, or you could come up and speak and make some comments or ask us some questions, see if we're alert that night during public comment.
Yeah. And I think this looks like a great timeline, Brad.
Yeah.
I think we're set up for success.
Thank you very much.
Yep. I think that's the only item on our agenda. And if there's no other business, I think that's it. We are adjourned for the day. We get a free half hour back.
Wow. Thanks, Brad.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, you too, Michael.